Hi everyone, my name is Cheryl and I'll be presenting research titled How Can Organizational Leaders Help? Examining the effectiveness of leaders' responses to COVID-19. This research was conducted with my wonderful colleagues at the University of South Florida. Existing research demonstrates that organizational leaders can make large positive impacts during crises. However, even well-intended organizational leaders do not always respond optimally. For example, a study conducted on the Christchurch, New Zealand earthquakes of 2010 to 2011 investigated ways that employees are supported by their leaders during this time. They found that employees reported a lot of helpful things their leaders were doing, such as providing clear communication regarding employees' risks and safety, providing generous leave options, and even providing financial support. However, employees also discussed things their leaders were doing that were well-intended, but ended up being unhelpful. For example, some leaders deterred their employees from discussing the devastating events at work, and others provided formal counseling, which was not especially appreciated. This research aims to extend previous literature by continuing to investigate optimal strategies for leaders to support their employees during crises. Specifically, this research addresses a few research questions. What forms of leadership support were helpful during the COVID-19 pandemic? Which were unhelpful? What distinguished helpful and unhelpful leadership actions? To address these research questions, we administered an open-ended online survey to approximately 200 university staff employees, 200 Florida licensed engineers, and 200 Florida licensed nurses. We asked these employees to describe something an organizational leader has done that has helped you during the COVID-19 outbreak. We also asked them to describe something an organizational leader has done that was well-intended but unhelpful during the COVID-19 outbreak. We received a lot of interesting responses like the ones presented here. A university staff employee said, "I am allowed to work during hours that differ from the normal 8 to 5 so I can help my school-age child complete his schoolwork. Doing this allows me to get my work done on my own time, and I believe I am ultimately more productive because of this flexibility. It has given me complete satisfaction of my job overall." Providing an example of unhelpful leadership support, a nurse said, "Our unit manager has arranged to have food brought in several times. The food is unhelpful because while it was well intended, it makes me feel like instead of hazard pay in a COVID ICU, we get a box of donuts." An engineer explained that every day we receive email communication with updates to our policies and new things that are being implemented because of COVID. These emails are well-intended, but not helpful. The quantity of emails is too much. Less time is spent on production when we have to read all of these policy emails. The research team and I read all of the employees' responses, and we categorized them into different leaders' actions. On the helpful side, we saw things like leaders who encouraged their employees to work from home as much as possible, leaders who provided their employees with a lot of personal protective equipment, like masks or hand sanitizer, and leaders who expressed a lot of gratitude to employees who continued to work diligently during this time. We also read examples of unhelpful leadership support, like leaders who provided food and snacks without addressing more important issues, leaders who required those working from home to fill out extra timesheets, and leaders who provided excessive email communication. Once we had lists of helpful and unhelpful leadership supportive actions, we tried to identify themes that help to differentiate helpful and unhelpful leadership support. The first theme that emerged was autonomy. A university staff employee said, "My boss has instituted a daily check-in policy. I know it was well-intended, but I felt micromanaged." Employees appreciated having freedom and control during this time, and they did not appreciate leaders who provided additional oversight. Communication was a differentiating factor between helpful and unhelpful support. A nurse said, "My supervisor has been sending out weekly updates specifically geared toward my role. It is very helpful and comforting." Employees liked targeted information, but they did not like excessive or insufficient communication. Personal resources like financial support and mental health resources were also appreciated. An engineer said, "Company resources for mental support and stress relief techniques are sent via email. It provided reassurance that people matter first." Other personal resources, like food, had more mixed reception. Safety was another differentiating factor. A university staff employee explained that their leader purchased some masks and safety equipment, but not a push for people to use them. Most did not use the safety equipment. Employees valued leaders who fostered a strong safety climate, and they did not like leaders who allowed employees to engage in unsafe practices. Timing was another important consideration. An engineer said that the president made a quick and decisive decision to work remotely. It was better to start earlier than later because we were able to meet every deadline. Employees liked leaders who made quick decisions, and they did not appreciate leaders who made delayed decisions that fostered uncertainty. Tone was also an important consideration. A nurse said, "I did not appreciate emails about the dangers of COVID. Seemed more like fear-mongering." Employees appreciated uplifting and positive messages, and they did not like leaders who dwelled on the negatives of COVID-19. Work equipment was also appreciated by many employees. A university staff employee said that their leader bought a new laptop for my home work, brought me a desk chair from the office. I work efficiently. Employees appreciated this office equipment, especially if they were transitioning to working from home. But they did not appreciate it if the equipment was provided without adequate technological support. Workload was a final differentiator between helpful and unhelpful leadership support. A nurse said that their leader sent untrained help to lessen the workload. It took more time training and took away from care. Employees liked leaders who protected them against work overload and work underload, but leaders need to be careful to make sure that their actions are having the desired effects. We are currently in the process of investigating occupational differences in employees' responses. Employees across occupations describe the same forms of helpful and unhelpful support. However, the frequency with which they discuss the various forms of support seems to differ. For example, nurses primarily described support pertaining to safety. University staff frequently commented on communication, and engineers commonly discussed autonomy. In conclusion, organizational leaders have an important role during COVID-19. Organizational leaders should be careful to provide helpful support and to avoid providing unhelpful support. This research can help inform leadership policies and practices during the current pandemic and future crises. Thank you.